Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Customer Engagement Examples of Excellence podcast. This is an Engaged Customer podcast. Find out more at engagedcustomer.com. In this episode, our guest host Rachel Williams meets Mike Walker, Head of Marketing at RT7 Digital.
Hi, Mike, and welcome onto the podcast. It's super exciting to have you here today, and I cannot wait to get stuck into this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Rachel. We're very excited to be here.
Lovely. So let's kick off by understanding a little bit about who you are, what you do. So can you share some information about yourself in that respect and give the audience just a little bit of a teaser as to what it is you do and a little bit of your history as well?
Sure, no problem at all. So I have a long history, over 20 years in the marketing and advertising space. I am currently head of marketing for RT7 Digital, which is a full service Amazon marketing agency. So ultimately what we do is we support brands in the UK, the US, and in Europe. And we've been going for 12 years. So we've really, cut our teeth in this space. We started actually off looking after our own brands. And realized very quickly the complexity of this environment. And through that knowledge, we now help others. So that's a quick snapshot. RT7 Digital is based in the UK. You'll hear from my accent that I'm South African. So we have a lot of South Africans in the business. In fact, our operational arm sits in Cape Town. And our sales and client service arm sits in the UK or wherever our clients sit. So that's a little bit of history about us.
That's very interesting. So you're B2B, but your clients are serving B2C, if that makes sense. Would that be correct?
Yeah, exactly. So from my perspective, my effort is around the B2B effort, looking for brands that want to optimize their presence in the e-commerce environment, specifically Amazon, though in saying that we can help them across the board. But yes, our clients are very much B2C. So, our understanding and how we operate has to be around that framework.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, lovely, exciting. So let's dive into the questions for the podcast today. And we're going to be covering off several areas. And so the first area we're going to talk about is customer satisfaction on Amazon. So CX, or customer experience in Amazon, will always be Jeff Bezos' primary focus. And the entire marketplace is, of course, built around customer satisfaction and having user experience at its best. So the question I have for you, Mike, our first question is, how do you think Amazon's relentless focus on customer satisfaction has influenced its success as a marketplace? That's sort of part one. And what lessons can other businesses take from Amazon's approach to CX? So we'll start off maybe with the first part, and that's all about what's your perspective on Amazon's relentless focus on customer satisfaction and how it's influenced the organization's success?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And those that are in the space absolutely understand that this has been a priority for Amazon and Jeff Bezos himself when he was involved in building out the marketplace, is that it had to be customer first. And the experience that one has on the platform is how they built the platform. So from the algorithms that they use to encourage brands to ensure that the products are placed in the right way, that there's enough imagery, that the explanation of the product and descriptions of the products falls in certain parameters. And those parameters are very strict because ultimately we want one experience when you're going from brand to brand in the marketplace. So the algorithm of Amazon will allow brands that are positioning themselves in the right way to be front and center, and those that are not will fall behind. So really the entire platform is built like that. So what does it mean? And I can break it up in a couple of areas that they focused on. So customer first mindset has always been Amazon's focus. Relentless innovation in this space is key. Data-driven personalization, I will talk a lot about that, but that's something that absolutely comes to the fore. The seamless effort and seamless experience for clients in the space is hugely important, and I can unpack that. And then the idea of reviews and feedback is something that is hugely important in the environment. And again, I'll keep referring to that Amazon algorithm as we go. The algorithm will reward brands that go out there and seek reviews and get positive feedback.
Yeah.
Just ultimately will lift the brand. So if we break it down a little bit from customer first mindset, I mean, we know that from product selection through to the speed of delivery, Amazon has absolutely made it a priority to ensure that the products that they have on board are of a quality and a standard. And it's interesting because this year there's been big competition from other playmakers that don't have the same standards, but because their pricing is so good, they've been a competitor to Team, for example.
Yes, of course.
That's come out of nowhere, and that's sort of from manufacturer straight to consumer. So that's created a bit of interest. But when it comes to customer experience, Amazon's still the leader. So relentless innovation. So things like one-click ordering, prime delivery, personalized recommendations. So if you're able to crunch the data and be able to see, I can see that this person is particularly interested in this line of products, and you can serve them up similar products at the same time, giving that person a real great customer experience because, hey, I'm looking for this, but I'm also seeing things being served up to me that's relevant to what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
The data-driven personalization is really, really important because what happens now is you're able to, like I say, serve up products that are being looked for by individuals. And then the seamless and effortless experience is, easy returns, 24/7 customer support, those kind of things add to the customer experience. So, and then the reviews and feedback really just give it credibility.
Yeah.
So we've got a few examples in South Africa where we've got local platforms that have been around for a long time, but they haven't followed this philosophy. So ultimately what they are is just a listing of brands. And there's no deep content behind it. And ultimately it's not what the customer is looking for. In this day and age, they are savvy buyers that are online. They are in the business of hunting primarily, would be their first point of contact, looking for brands, trying to understand what's out there, looking for product. And in the Amazon environment, you've got set rules, and you're going to find a similar experience if you're looking in the kitchenware space to where you're going to be looking in the gardening space. So that kind of really covers what Amazon has been doing, but from what can businesses do, I think anyone that is starting out in the e-commerce space, they either got to go and choose a direct-to-consumer platform, so their own platform.
Yeah.
They're going to choose either to go into a marketplace, or they're going to get someone else to distribute and sell their product. Those are the three places a brand will play. And I think what's important is in this day and age, brands are playing on all three.
Yeah.
Because you have to have omni-channel presence. It's just the way the world operates. We know that in our generation, we're pretty savvy online. We know the next generation that's coming is completely online and absolutely savvy. And so you as a business need to be placing your brand in all places, and you need to ensure that that brand is similar in all places, i.e. the look and feel, the tone, the ability to be able to order easily. That all blends into the customer experience. So when someone is wanting to play in the e-commerce space, Amazon takes care of that customer experience by their platform. You as a business need to think about what that looks like on your own platforms or any other platforms that you're on. Now, I'll tell you that no two marketplaces are the same. So Amazon is the leader in this customer experience space. But you'll find that Walmart, for example, and Walmart is the biggest physical retailer in the world. They this year have spent $2 billion on their platform to try and grow the e-commerce space because they see what's happening and they can ignore it. And what Walmart is doing is they're following fairly similar sort of trajectory to Amazon, building out their marketplace that has a customer experience as top of mind.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much in that space. You know, I think it's really, really important that when brands do get involved, that they have also the right team that are going to back them in the sense of, hey, we've got to build our content. This is a live environment, hey? So SKUs break, you know, it's not only the platform and how you built it out, but it's also management of it on a daily basis that affects your customer experience. So I think it's a case of build it out beautifully, ensure that you have a great customer experience on the platform, but once customers are ordering, the return policy, the delivery, speed of delivery, those things also play a huge role.
Yes, 100%. And I think everything you said there is so much to unpack. But the way you sort of break it down, I think people can really have some key takeaways there. And I think that what Amazon have done, people and business owners should be able to replicate something similar in terms of having a seamless customer experience if they are going to have their own direct-to-consumer website in addition to Amazon. And then if they're going to be distributing, they then have to obviously hand that customer experience over to whoever is going to distribute their products. So those were some really great points that people can really apply in their companies. And so we'll move on to the second topic, which is all about e-commerce as a serious retail channel. So a quick glimpse of e-commerce's growing dominance in retail. And we're going to be looking at why it's an unmissable channel for contemporary retailers. So anyone who is entering into retail or existing companies, we're going to explore why e-commerce is the future and why it's so important to get it right as well. So the question I have for you around that topic is the following. Why do you believe e-commerce has become such a critical retail channel? And how can businesses that are still reliant on traditional models start transitioning into the online space to take full advantage of its potential? So again, we've kind of got two parts there. The first is your perspective on why you think e-commerce has become so important and so big, and then how existing companies can make that transition.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we always say the numbers don't lie. And ultimately, if you look at what's happened in the e-commerce space, and really in the last 4 years is a good period to look at. Prior to the pandemic, e-commerce was showing strong growth, but not much, not seen as a serious channel. Obviously, the pandemic changed the world in the sense that physical retail had to shut down for various periods in various parts of the world. And brands quickly realized that they needed to find other channels. And e-commerce was the natural space to go. But if we just look at the numbers this year, I can quote you, you know, in North American sales for Amazon, the last quarter grew by 9%. In the EU and UK, we've looked at a growth rate of over 12%. Now, those numbers are phenomenal. If you look currently at the growth rate of the UK, I mean, the percentage growth rate, I think is, I don't want to take a guess, but it's right down in the below 5% growth rate. The US is exactly the same, but here you've got a channel that is outperforming beyond 10%, and that has happened year on year, quarter by quarter. So this is a growing channel. And Amazon is growing, But not only Amazon, I've mentioned a couple of other channels that are now coming to the Etsy, Walmart. Those are all seriously looking at growing their pool as well. So I think when we say to brands, you can't ignore the channel. How much do you invest in that channel? That's a very good question, and that's something, you know, one has to look at the general business strategy, but ultimately don't ignore it. Purely from a numbers point of view, there's money to be made there. And I'll caveat that because there's, you know, it's not just put your brand on there and off you go. I would say the second thing, and why you have to be in the e-commerce space, is because, again, going back to the customer, they're hunting for brands all over the place. And trust me, they start online. You know, I have a 13-year-old daughter, and so I can tell you from experience, they live online a huge amount. They are scrolling, they are looking, they're on TikTok, they're doing all of this type of thing. They are being influenced by brands that are on those channels. Even if those brands are on those channels for purely brand exposure, they are influencing your future customer. And so if you're not playing on in the digital realm, you're not going to be discovered. Sure, as a physical store, you will be found in different and other ways. But when it comes to people looking for products and then deciding on the product, most of that happens online these days before you're actually going into a physical store. So the numbers and the fact that you need to ensure that your brand is across the omni-channel space, you need to consider e-commerce. Then when you get into the e-commerce space, what is it, the things that you need to consider? I'll unpack that next. Let me just give you a couple of points of why highlighted you need to be there. Numbers don't lie, but accessibility and convenience. So what the consumer wants these days. Global reach, the ability to sell your product at a fairly quick rate in another country or another region without having huge upfront costs, massively important. Data-driven insights, and I said to you, we'd come back to data all day. Data is really where it's all about. You know, go online, you have a look at this, you do that. We're tracking everything. You interact with this product, and we're tracking across platforms, not just in the marketplace that you're spending time in. And so what happens is you start to get to know your customer really, really well. And so instead of pull marketing, we now push marketing. So we understand you as a human being, and we're going to serve up content and things that we know you're going to like. So the data-driven insights allows products and brands to really start to understand who their customer is. I'll give you a wild example. So I'm going to go into a shop and I'm going to buy a pair of jeans. They're going to say, hi, welcome. It's going to be a wonderful experience. I'm going to walk out. They know nothing about me. Nothing about me. And trust me, I go into a marketplace and I go buy a product. They know everything about me. And that's really where the competitive edge comes in these days. I've mentioned relatively low upfront investment. Really what we mean by that is that, you know, physical stores, the branding of those stores, the leases that you take out, the staff that has to manage those things, that, you know, those are upfront costs. Not to say that e-commerce doesn't have costs. And in fact, I'm very happy to go off on a tangent with you about what Amazon's done this year, because Amazon has clamped down. We'll have that conversation separately. And then I think the last thing around why e-commerce or why the digital environment is so important around scalability and flexibility. Honestly, there's no place that you can scale as quickly, and flexibility, you can pull products off immediately from the shelves, and I'll put inverted commas. You have so much control, much more control. So that would be kind of like the key highlights. You know, I've talked about accessibility and convenience, shop anytime, anywhere, you know, global reach. There's no geographical barriers anymore. the data insights, I could talk forever, but we understand customer preferences and their shopping behaviors. The relatively low investment, we've talked about it. So that's kind of where I see things. What should traditional retailers do to transition into the e-commerce space? I think that's part of your second question. And really, it just starts with an online presence. But don't be so flippant just to put your products online. We've talked about this customer experience. And so when you're putting your products online, ensure that you take time, that you ensure that your products are well represented, whether it's your own platform or whether it's a marketplace. Invest in digital marketing. We've been working with a lot of brands this year in the gardening space. So gardening is definitely your traditional, seen as a traditional vertical. And their first question is, really, do we need to get involved in this? And we're saying to them, absolutely. You need to invest in digital marketing. You have to have omni-channel options because, as I said, the search for products these days starts online. And if you're not there, you're falling behind. And other things, optimize customer experience, we've talked about. That's hugely important for businesses. So if you are considering going online, these are the things you need to embrace. Data and analytics. Don't just put your products online. Understand who's looking at your products. Understand where they're spending their time and market accordingly. Prioritize your inventory and fulfillment. It is massively important that the customer experience doesn't just end when they've bought the product. The delivery, the returns, the ability to get hold of someone if you need help. Trust me, if someone's bought your product and then they can't get it back to you or they can't get hold of you, you've turned a neutral into a negative. So this environment has serious considerations, and one must be ready around inventory and fulfillment because you can fall very short and hurt your brand very quickly. So I would just sort of maybe summarize that again: accessibility and convenience, why you would consider e-commerce, the global reach, the data that you're getting and the insights, the low upfront investment, and scalability and flexibility. That would be sort of my key areas around why you should.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And I think, one of the key things I can pull from what you're saying is that if you are a traditional retailer, you need to have some kind of a plan for getting online and how to implement that plan, and not to forget that if you are going to be online, you need to have back office things set up so that your customers can still reach you with their queries, with any issues, and the returns and all of those sorts of things need to be seamless. As you said, it's not just putting the product online and hoping that people are now going to notice you. There needs to obviously be a plan for marketing and all of those sorts of things. So fantastic. Thank you so much, Mike. So let's move on to the third topic we're going to cover. And this is really about your perspective based on your career experience. So I know you mentioned you've been in this space or similar spaces for the last 20 years. And so we're going to be exploring the changes in e-commerce, marketing and sales over your career and your thoughts on the implications these changes have had on business. And so the question is, having witnessed significant shifts in e-commerce, marketing and sales throughout your career, what have been the most transformative changes and how do you think they have impacted businesses trying to stay competitive in the digital age? We have touched on a few of those things already, but if you can maybe summarize your thoughts on all of these shifts and changes. And, even in the UK here, we've seen a lot of high streets closing, and now a lot of brands have actually mostly gone online. So like 90% of their operations are now online. So we're thinking about things like that, the increase in influencer marketing. But then also there are some people who just don't want to be online. Maybe some people that are a little bit older. And so let us know your thoughts on all of those things that we've just mentioned?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I've been in the game for a while. And if you look at when I came into the game and we were looking after brands and products, it was a much simpler world in the sense that you had your physical store, you had your above the line advertising, TV, radio, print, you did your brand activations, but it was also a physical environment. And then, you would dabble in your PR and the event space. That hasn't changed. And that's still all hugely important. But what has happened is you've got this entire digital space that has been added to the mix. And I have to say that initially the marketing and advertising world was a little bit slow. They kept falling back on their big TV ad. They felt safe in that space. They didn't quite understand this entire digital space. And I'm happy to say that 20 years later, the world is the world of marketing and advertising is caught up, and they are now leading with digital. And so there has been a huge transformation. So, what does that transformation look high level? I mean, digital transformation of commerce has happened in the last 20 years. So you've got 20 years ago, very sort of brick and mortar was it. Now you've had this transformation happen in commerce where it is digital, it is physical, and quite a lot of interesting things in between, actually. So that is a huge transformation. What has also happened, and again, we mentioned it, is the data-driven marketing and personalization. Now we have the ability, again, I'll revert back to me walking in the shop and buying jeans. We have the ability to know who you are. We have the ability to personalize things now. And so when I walk out of the shop, let's say the physical store, there's not much you're going to do. But when I walk out of the Amazon marketplace store, you know who I am, you know my likes, you know my family if you want, you know everything about me. And therefore you can tailor your conversations to me specifically. It's phenomenal. In marketing, that's gold. I mean, in the old days, we were guessing. In this day and age, you have so much amazing data on your customer, and that's changed. That's completely new. Omni-channel integration is also a thing that, in fact, we've seen happen in a big way in the last sort of 6 years. And what I mean by that is it's not just, physical to digital, but what's happening in the digital space is that you've got this fragmentation of all these super apps, as we call them, where, again, TikTok I use because of my 13-year-old. And you've got to be on TikTok. And that was only something that happened recently. I can promise you that, where brands are going, really? But that's for youngsters. They're just scrolling. No. You need to be on TikTok. In fact, I don't have the TikTok numbers on me, but that marketplace has exploded in the last couple of years. And so this is what we mean by omnichannel. Oh no, I can just have my own website. No, sorry. You need a website. You need to have a presence in Amazon. You need to then have a TikTok environment. And all of these are literally a customer going, in this environment, then I'm going into this one. And within a couple of seconds, they can be in different environments looking for your brand. And that's massively changed the conversation. Rapid adoption of social media and influencer marketing. I mean, we've talked about this, and it's not going away. It's changing. It's changing. I think influencer marketing, to an extent, was held by a couple of well-known people in the past, or those that really worked on growing their profile. In this day and age, we've seen influencers pop out of nowhere. Kids who are now suddenly creating their own content, and it's about the content that then makes them, start ranking. So this space is changing, but yeah, it'll continue to grow. It'll continue to be challenging. Look what's happening in the US. We've got suddenly a new government president coming in. We've got TikTok, who is growing out of this world. But what's happening there? So what are brands going to do? Are they going to wait and see, or are they going to invest on that platform? So always changing. And then the shift from push to pull marketing. So like I said to you in the past, I'm going to be sitting, in my store waiting for you to walk in the door. Now I'm going to go out and hunt for you. So I'm going to go and pull you in by going and serving up your content right in front of you, personalizing that content. And that's where it has really changed the game in marketing. And then the focus on customer experience and retention. So again, we go back to customer experience. And, it's difficult for people, especially those that are in the product space, to, you can understand a store. So you can walk into the store and you've got your top selling shoes in the front. Then you go to the back, and then, those are the products you want to get rid of. Well, in a digital environment, you really have to have similar considerations without actually the physical. So customer experience still right up there. And then retention is something that is hugely important. So I've walked out of the store this afternoon with my jeans. They don't know who I am. Good luck with me coming back there. Hopefully the jeans are great. But that's the product that you're relying on to get me back into your store. Now we know who I am, and we're going to keep contacting you, keep serving you up product data that is interesting to you. So, so much has changed. And it's super exciting from a marketing point of view, because brands in this day and age, products, they have more opportunity to place themselves than they've ever had before. So in the past, it was maybe your own stores, or it was going and selling in other stores. In this day and age, you have multiple marketplaces where literally you can be selling today in the UK, but you could be selling a product in Germany within the next month. And that's exciting. And that's where I think things have really changed for brands. Do I think brands are using this new opportunity to the best of their ability? I mean, we know the super brands of the world and they've had lots of money to throw at this problem. But we're finding the middle range brands and the smaller sort of brand houses, they know it's important, and they're starting to invest, but they're a little bit behind.
Amazing, thank you. And it's almost like the online space provides a gateway for smaller companies, medium-sized companies, and also even startups to have the potential to go global, to make, a lot more in revenue versus being in a physical storefront, which is also, amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, the principles of selling products and brands is the same. It hasn't changed. You've got to have a great product. But imagine you in a couple of years ago, your product is very limited in where you can put that great product. Now you have the ability to invest and have your product in places that you couldn't imagine. And that's very exciting, I think, for brands and products. Also very scary. So just the implications for business, I'm going to highlight things like adaptability is key. Brands have to be adaptable. You cannot just keep doing what you're doing and think you're going to succeed in the next 5 years. So adaptability is key. Invest in technology. I'll tell you, I've been in this business for a while now, in the e-commerce space. I am not a person that leans into technology. It's a space that traditionally is quite scary. And I know that's the case for many, many people. But you cannot ignore it, and you need to start investing in it. So get your head around that. The customer-centric approach doesn't change. The leveraging of data wisely, brands need to look at their data. If you are now putting your products out there, there is data that you need to start using and crunching. Otherwise, you'll be losing a huge opportunity. Build resilience. Now, this is a huge one for brands because a lot of people think, I'll put my product online and off we go. In the next 3 months, I expect returns. No, that is not going to happen. You have to build your presence first. We call it the Amazon flywheel. There are certain things that you have to get right to get this flywheel spinning. Once it starts spinning, and there's a number of levers you pull, but time is one of the levers. And then there's a whole lot of other levers, the level of the content that you're putting up, the advertising that you're throwing at the problem, all of those things will get the flywheel going. But it takes time. And so you need to have budgets. Like anything, if you put a product in a physical store, you need to have a budget. You need to allocate time. So that's important. And then I think the last thing would be for me to embrace omni-channel, also embrace social commerce. And we've talked about that: TikTok, Facebook Marketplace, Amazon, Etsy. All these platforms are all competing with each other. Do research first. Don't just, and because it's digital, because there's data, you can research, you can decide where you want to place your brand, do a competitor analysis, see what other brands are spending time and money. I think I'm going down a rabbit hole. You asked me what has changed in this space? So much.
Lovely. Thank you so much. The rabbit hole had a lot of great value, so that's absolutely fine. And so we're going to move on to our final section, and this is kind of similar to what we just spoke about. So it's all about the evolution of marketing on e-commerce channels. So we're talking about marketplaces, direct-to-consumer websites, social media. And we have actually covered off this question a little bit. So I'm going to reshape it slightly. So the question is, how has marketing on e-commerce platforms evolved over the years? And I think we've covered that. So let's go into the second part of this question, which is, what strategy should brands adopt to stand out in today's highly competitive digital marketplace? So if you could maybe give us your top 3 strategies on how an existing brand, a new brand, can stand out in the digital space. And we're talking about all parts of the digital space. So their own website, Amazon, a different marketplace, social media. What would be your top 3 strategies that a company can implement?
Okay, well, I mean, I can, off the top of my head, I can probably give you about 8, but I'll give you 3 and we can see how we go. So we've talked about the digital space or the e-commerce environment. That in itself has changed, and mostly driven by what Amazon has been doing as the leader. And so we've talked about prioritizing high quality content and enhanced content. Honestly, if you want to move the needle in your space, that is not going to take a lot of investment. Prioritize high quality and enhanced content, great imagery, video content. In this day and age, think about your customer or your potential customer and how they are consuming content. In the old days, a simple picture and a small description. In this day and age, we want 7 images. We want to rotate 360. We want to have 7 bullet points explaining in detail what the product is. And then, hey, we want a video. And not only do we want that, we want to then start looking at reviews. And so you see it all ties together and that. So, but prioritize your content. That's something I would say straight away. Then what you need to do is also optimize for search and discoverability. So SEO is real in every environment in the digital world. And so, employ SEO best practices and keyword strategies to ensure that when people are searching, your product is popping up there. That's really important. And then the third thing that I would say would be invest in sponsored ads and targeted campaigns. Gone are the days where you've got a great product, you describe it beautifully, you have all the SEO sorted, and you're going to be on top of the pile. No, unfortunately, Amazon is not one of the wealthiest brands and companies in the world for nothing. They have a very strong advertising arm, which is always evolving. But ultimately, you do need to put some money behind it. And the good news is you can know how much money you need to put behind it, because you can do a competitor analysis and see exactly what your competitors are spending. And so it's not a guessing game. But these key three things: high quality content, optimize for search and discoverability, and invest in sponsored ads or targeted campaigns, not just in the marketplace that you are in, but also in your other social spaces. So again, I refer to that Amazon algorithm. If you are driving new traffic to Amazon, they love you, and they'll put your brand right on top. And so understanding these things helps you win. But those are the three. I think the other ones, which I won't unpack in detail, would be, again, leveraging social proof and actively managing reviews. We've talked about the importance of that. The implementation of personalization tactics, we've talked about it. Engage with social commerce, we've talked about that, Instagram, TikTok, all of those. And then the omni-channel strategy, the ability to be able to search the product anywhere and buy the product in various places, also hugely important.
Lovely.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome, Mike. Thank you so much. We are coming to the end of the podcast now. So, thank you for mentioning all of those points. And if anyone wants to connect with RT7 Digital, all of the details will be in the notes, but you can let the audience know where they can go to connect with yourself and the company.
Sure, absolutely. So you'll find us at rt7digital.com. And if you want to reach out to me personally, it's mike@rt7digital.com. And it's been an absolute pleasure. I once wrote an article that said High Street is dead. And the truth is, it's not. I think that High Street and the physical store will always have a hugely important role to play. But you know what? Those are going to be experiences. They're not going to be the place you go to purchase.
Yeah,
that's where you're going to go and spend time with the jeans people and the beautiful people serving you and the coffee that you'll have. That will be an immersive experience. But where the future is digital.
100%. I totally agree. The modern customer wants things quickly, easily, and conveniently. And that's, ties in with what you're saying. So I just want to give a big thank you today, Mike, for coming on to the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. And I've taken away some amazing golden nuggets, even for myself. So thank you once again, and have an awesome day.
Wonderful. Keep well.
Thanks for listening. For other episodes and more information, head to engagecustomer.com.